Caitlin Clark's absence from the heat was on for the WNBA All-Star Game. The participants, this was their opportunity to demonstrate that they were worthy of the attention and the large sum of money they are requesting. They spoke in front of the court, but the supporters, they made a strong declaration of their own. Furthermore, ESPN does not want you to be aware of it. The numbers of viewers appeared, and ESPN is once more running protection for the league and its participants.
It's fine to just say, just post the ratings. But, like, it is another situation than pretending like Caitlin Clark doesn't exist.
Caitlin Clark's fans quickly criticized them for they have attempted this before, to conceal her influence. But this time after, what transpired on the court is backfiring severely. Let's dissect everything down. First, though, watch this video if you've had enough of ESPN's ploys. And for additional Caitlin Clark and WNBA news and updates, ESPN thus has a practice when regarding Caitlin Clark's influence on audience size. They are truthful, but they don't tell the whole tale, please. They cherry pick instead. They employ numbers that are technically true, but just those that are appropriate for the story. Their goal is to sell. Additionally, in relation to the stats they don't discuss, Caitlin, are more revealing. Consider this for instance, following the WNBA draft in 2025, ESPN gleefully stated that the number of views had increased 119%. Initially, that appears to be a huge victory for the league. However, take a closer look will reveal something strange. They are contrasting it with 2023. So why not go ahead and do 2024? Anyone in the media or marketing will tell you. You contrast this year with last year. Last year, not this year against 2 years. Long time ago. What would make ESPN skip the draft then? Starting in 2024? Due to the fact that Caitlin was the draft by Clark that received a 2.45 million people who watched. Additionally, if they made a comparison, in contrast, the true headline would been this. Viewership of the draft is declining, 49%. But they wanted that story to stay under wraps. There. Furthermore, this isn't a one-time. They both used the same ruse. In 2025 during March Madness in the Sweet 16, the Elite, and the second round. 8. ESPN contrasted viewership figures with 2023. Caitlin was now participating in the competition that year, so at first glance it seems fair. But then, the moment they arrived to the Final Four in the national title game, suddenly the comparison ceased. No more 2023. Instead, they just said, third highest ever, which sounds stunning until you remember the 2 years ahead of it were 23 and 24. Both. Caitlin made it to the final 4 years. Thus, what would happen if they revealed the entire figures? They would have to acknowledge the audience fell by more than 10 million. Thus, yes, they will contrast themselves with Caitlin Clark if they outperformed her. However, if they don't be silent, that's not a mistake. That's intentional. And the most hilarious portion, they don't believe that followers will understand it. They believe that if they discard enough large-sounding statistics, people will think. Women's basketball continues to set records in the absence of Caitlin Clark, when in truth, they're only making it worse. Evident. It's the Strand effect. It's what happens when you try to hide something. Additionally, you sketch away by doing so. Greater focus on it. That's what ESPN's doing at the moment. And Caitlin's admirers, they recognize it right away and call it out. Each and every time since each spin, every selective stat, every dodge merely demonstrates one thing. Caitlin Clark is pushing the expansion, and it's obvious that they wish to keep that from us. However, it's not
noticed or heard about it, but during the game, Caitlin got honored as the WNBA Player of the Year in the ESPYs. just what does it mean to have her impact so far? I mean, there are a lot of really good players in this league, and she got honored as the best player in the league by the ESPYs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she continues to get new awards. She continues to break barriers. She continues to do things that we haven't seen before. I mean, you know, obviously you think about the Stewie's MVPs of the league, and you know, championship winners, and Asia's MVPs of the league and championship winners, and of course Sue Bird, who's sitting, you know, in the building today. And you know, Caitlin is so fortunate, as well as all these guys, really. I mean, that they don't know anything any different than the WNBA.
That's how fragile the ecosystem is. All around her, even praise has to be negotiated politically. Additionally, when the media does mention Caitlin's popularity, it's never on her own merit.
I just said we would not be talking about Caitlin Clark the way that we do if it wasn't for that moment with Angel Reese. And I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill.
I was with you until that.
I will die on this hill. I will die on this hill.
They say it's due of someone else. A rivalry, a moment, a narrative. Anything but the actual player pulling the figures. And when they do confess she has millions of supporters, suddenly those fans are an issue.
The new fans are sucking life out of the WNBA right now.
We'll start with you, Kels, because Lord Jesus, your team and their fans,
Jesus,
they be getting up in everybody's business.
I think so many fans, you know, feel they have the freedom to say whatever they want to us, and unfortunately, there's a lot of nasty things that come with it. You know, they don't have people coming to their job saying these nasty things. So, yeah, we definitely have to protect the players better.
And then it escalates. Fans of Caitlin are no longer just noisy. They're poisonous or racist or hateful.
It seems that they
avoid supporting Paige Beckers because she supports social justice.
Or
Angel Reese should have been Caitlin's choice in order to retain her in the All-Star draft. Fan base in control. Even the Phoenix Mercury joined the fray with a not-so-subliminal indication that Indianapolis is not a secure location for gamers. It's untamed since this ecology, the championship, the athletes, the press is attempting to minimize the participant who's actually sustaining the league's expansion and penalizing the supporters who enabled it.
And they
recognize it. However, they prefer to safeguard their egos to maintain authority, which is amusing since the second Caitlin's. When supporters stop paying attention, that power vanishes. And for the players at the moment, that power is crucial. The participants are in the midst of a heated CBA discussion. Additionally, they want to profit by riding the impact of a huge media rights agreement that, let's face it, is being motivated in large part by Caitlin Clark. However, in the background, there are actual worries since, in spite of what the media claims, that in contrast to what the players say, the owners are aware of the reality. This league is largely dependent on Caitlin's popularity, ratings, and tickets while she's not there. Prices don't simply decline, they plummet by 50% or higher. And that isn't typical. Not in any other league.
I can't imagine, folks, you know how many NBA players can get injured? And the prices would never drop to this low. LeBron James can be injured, Steph Curry could be injured, Kevin Durant could be in, and the prices still will not drop to be this low. $75? Folks, I'm sure there's some high school football teams down in Texas that charge you at least $75 to get to a home game.
Thus, after Caitlin Clark was disqualified from in the All-Star game, players were placed in a vicious stance. This was meant to be a noteworthy event, the league's largest spotlight, and all of a sudden they were alone. No, Caitlin. A short increase in ratings, simply the players, as well as an opportunity to demonstrate. Without her, they could carry the moment. And it went sideways right out of the gate. The ticket prices fell 48% as soon as Caitlin was excluded. And that resulted in one significant
query.
How terrible could it get?
Could
the guys pull off a miracle without her? Or would the figures ultimately reveal the extent of this dependence? Goes? The ratings are in then, and ESPN went all out for damage management.
3-point contest. ESPN, ABC, and Disney score the historic viewership for the 2025 WNBA All-Star event. Friday, July 18th, ESPN airs the most watched WNBA skills and 3-point contest ever, averaging 1.3 million viewers, which is up 89% versus last year's WNBA skills and 3-point contest, up 89%.
In fact, the weekend got off to a great start. The 3-point shooting and a skills competition contest had a substantial viewership spike over. 2024 is a positive indication for the league. It seems as though the players might truly take it off. Perhaps they could produce figures without Caitlin Clark present. The court. However, ESPN immediately reacted to their outdated methods.